Okay, so this is our sliding table saw. It's a sled system that we built. It has an acrylic guard that sits here above the blade. So this one's really safe. I haven't had anybody get cut on this one. Here, but in Utah, I had a kid cut his thumb off on it. And I say that, I mean the tip of his thumb. He didn't get into the bone. So here's how he did it. He was making a cut, a little piece of wood, and he put his thumb directly behind the fence back here, right in the cutting path. And then he ran this through. Well, the blade comes through the back of the fence, came right through his thumb. And he was so generous that after he cut his thumb, I noticed it, he started screaming and running around like a banshee. Throwing blood all over the shop. It was a disaster. I was cleaning that sucker for a week. I kept finding drops of blood he left everywhere. So, if you do cut yourself, please wrap it up quickly, put yourself on the ground so you don't pass out, and take your time, okay? And we'll come help you. I'm pretty good with other people's blood. I don't do so well with my own. Okay, so I've had a couple of accidents, not in the table saw area, but in other places in my life. And I found out I go into shock quickly, and I'm really good at passing out. Not too bad at that. So, I've been on a lot of car accidents where people, I've had brains hanging out, bones sticking out legs, all sorts of serious accidents. Hasn't troubled me a bit, not a problem. I can deal with other people's blood, just not my own. I don't do too good when I'm bleeding. Unless it's a small cut, you know. So anyway, the safety on this one is pretty simple. This is again, we want to watch out on the length of our boards here, but we'll cut boards that are less than 10 inches on this saw. But you have to be careful about how you're cutting them and how you hold them. So, in order to get cut on this, you have to put your hand in the cutting path and run it into the blade. I know that sounds like nobody would do that, and nobody has, so that's good. But you literally have to reach underneath the guard, put your hand in here, and then run it into the blade. That's how you get cut. Okay? So, never reach underneath the guard. That's kind of rule number one on this. Okay? You put your wood in here. The other accident that can happen on this is you can get pinched. So if your wood's not up against this back fence, the wood's out here when it hits the blade, sometimes it'll slam it back against the back fence, and if your finger's between there, it'll pinch your finger and that hurts. And then you have to say, ouch, I hate that, because we don't swear here. Okay? That's an important phrase for you to learn, ouch, I hate that. Anytime you get hurt, you always say, ouch, I hate that. Okay? Don't swear. I never swear. Except when I swear. But I shouldn't swear, so try not to. Okay? So, that's the only other accident that we really kind of watch out for here. There's one other one that can happen. If you're cutting your wood, you get drop off, and you don't clear it off, and you leave it out here on the table, and it piles up, and you pull this back, and it happens to be in here and hits it, it'll kick it back, it'll hit it into the fence, and that can be real scary. It's noisy and loud. But the fence has always blocked it, so that's been good. Otherwise, it would tag you in the face, and that hurts a lot. Okay? So, your hands should always be up here on the top and the sides, never in the back on the cutting path, because the blade does come through the back of this. Okay? So you keep your hands out of there. When you push through to make your cut, you should stop once you clear the wood, so the blade isn't coming through the back. Okay? But the further you go, the more it will cut. Okay? So you don't want to go too far, just far enough to cut through your wood, and then you just bring it back, and then you get your wood out. When your wood is in here, don't reach in here and grab your wood. Take another piece of wood, block of wood or something, and just poke it out to the side where you can pick it up outside of the guard area. Okay? Don't be reaching your hand down in underneath here. That's a good way to get cut. I see students sometimes do that, and they don't even pull this way back. So they'll be right here, and they'll reach in like this, or right by the blade. And I'm like, are you nuts? What's the matter with you? Because they're watching their wood, they're not even watching the blade, their hand goes right next to it. So just don't reach under there, and you won't have that problem. Okay? Take a piece of wood, tap it out with the wood, get your piece out. This is our stop. We use stops to get repetitive cuts. So when you put it on here, you clamp it into place. There's a tape measure up here, and so there's a line on the stop right up here that sets up for how long your cut's going to be. And you set it up, you move your wood to the stop, you make your cut, then you take it out, do the next one, then you can get repetitive cuts. The stop doesn't go very far down in, about 7 inches is as close as you can get. Okay? Sometimes we need to cut stuff smaller than that, so we have to make a different stop to do that. But as far as the safety on this goes, that's kind of it. Just make sure the wood's against the fence, make sure you don't reach under the guard, and make sure there's nothing hanging on the table that will run into the blade and cause a kickback. Any questions on this one?
Do you ever use the wheels?
The what?
The turn wheels.
No, I don't. So this wheel again tilts the blade, so please don't turn that one. There's one here in the front which raises and lowers the blade. And you can raise and lower the blade. There are times when you need to do that. But most of the time we don't. Most of the time we just leave it up and it works out perfectly. Okay? So when you're cutting on a table saw, I didn't mention this with the table saws earlier, but we'll mention it now. Typically you want your blade to be no more than 1/4 of an inch above the wood. And it's kind of odd because the reason they do that is in case you get stupid. But it actually cuts better if it's higher. So the higher the blade is, it cuts more on a downward cut, and so it's safer and makes a better cut. But everybody tells you not to put the blade up too high because if you stupidly run your hand through it, it'll cut your finger off, and if it's low, you just slice through your fingers like Mr. Tomato Boy, right? I think I told you guys that story about the kid who ran his hand through there and didn't tell me, and then the next day came with it all taped up, and I said, what happened? He said, I was cutting a tomato and cut into his hand. And then 2 years later, his brother was in my class and told me how he'd run his hand through my table saw. He just wasn't paying attention, and he was watching the fence like he's supposed to, but he didn't have a guard in place. So he ran through it, and he was going so fast, he just zipped right through his fingers before he could stop himself. But he had the blade low, so it just barely cut through the meat. He said cuts he needed Band-Aids on, but he was embarrassed, so he didn't tell me. So he said, can I go to the bathroom? Wrapped it up in a fist, went to the bathroom. Then he came back, and he said, oh, he didn't come back from the bathroom. He just left. And he went home, and then the next day he came in all wrapped up and claimed he cut a tomato, which that was a legitimate looking excuse. I'd be like, yeah, I can see you doing that. You're dumb, so. Right? And so anyway, that was the one kid who did do that. So that's why people keep that blade low. But if the blade's higher, it cuts more on a downward path and you get a cleaner cut. Okay? But it's not as safe because of those kickbacks and other things that can happen. And so the blade should only be about 1/4 of an inch above the wood, which is about the length of the blade. So about 1/4 of an inch above the wood is the safety for it, and that's where we tell you to keep it. Okay?